The wine cost $4,000. And in front of an entire restaurant, he decided she would pay for it. The glass hits the marble. It doesn't shatter. It cracks. A thin line cuts through the glass. Slow. Cruel. Like something screaming without sound. Sarah's hand freezes in mid-air. Trapped in the mistake. The air disappears. It doesn't come in. It doesn't go out. The dining room goes quiet. Not silent. Never silent in a place like Lumiere. Conversations continue in the background. Silverware clinks. Napkins shift. But around table 7, everything tightens. The space. The time. The air. Christopher Ashford doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. "Do you have any idea," he says, low, controlled, "how much that bottle of wine costs?" Sarah lowers her hand slowly. Her fingers shake. The Bordeaux spreads across the white tablecloth. Dark. Thick. Drawing far too much attention. She feels the stares. Not direct. Never direct. But all of them. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Ashford," she says. "I'll bring another." "That's not what I asked." He doesn't blink. Doesn't look away. Doesn't soften. His eyes lock onto hers. Blue. Cold. The kind of gaze that decides fates. Without raising its voice. He's younger than she expected. Mid-30s. Impeccable. A suit that costs more than everything she earns in a month. His hands rest beside the plate. Steady. Well kept. No wedding band. The calm of someone in control. And fully aware of it. Sarah swallows. "I believe it's a 2015 Chateau Margaux, sir. I can. $4,000. He tilts his head. "Barely. But enough. Per bottle," he continues. "And you wasted half of it. Because you can't handle even the most basic part of your job." The woman across from him studies her nails. Bored. Detached. The man beside him shifts in his seat. Says nothing. Does nothing. "I'll pay for it," Sarah says. The words are heavy. They hurt. $4,000. Her hands shake harder. "From your salary?" Christopher asks. One corner of his mouth lifts. Not a smile. A warning. That would take, what? 3 months. 4. She goes silent. He picks up the napkin. Wipes a single drop of wine from the table. Slowly. Precisely. Then lets the cloth fall. "Clean this up. Bring another bottle." A pause. "And this time, try not to humiliate yourself." Sarah nods. Her throat closes. She turns away. Every step weighs. Every stare burns. Behind her, his voice still reaches the room. "Unbelievable. You'd think they'd train people like that better." Low laughter cuts through the air. The kitchen doors swing shut, muting the luxury, the control, the humiliation. Sarah leans against the steel counter. Just 1 second. Just enough not to fall. She presses her palm against the cold surface. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. Jackson's school. "Not now, please." The screen lights up. Vibrates. Stops. Her son's face appears. Wide smile. Missing teeth. Too happy for this moment. The phone vibrates again. Sarah's chest tightens. Jackson never calls twice. Without a reason. Table 7 is waiting. Marco stands beside her, holding a fresh bottle of Margaux. Neutral face. Trained. "You okay?" he asks. She slips the phone back into her pocket without answering. "I'm fine." A lie. Her hands are still shaking. When she takes the bottle, she didn't know then, in that moment, that some mistakes don't end there, and that some men make sure they never forget. The second bottle arrives without incident. Sarah's hands are steady now, or steady enough. She pours with mechanical precision. The wine catches the light as it fills Christopher's glass. Deep garnet against crystal. She doesn't meet his eyes. She doesn't need to. The judgment is already there, pressing against her skin, like humidity. Finally, he doesn't thank her. He lifts the glass, studies it against the natural light, then takes a slow, calculated sip. His expression gives nothing away. The woman across from him leans forward slightly. Is it acceptable this time, darling? Barely. Christopher sets the glass down with deliberate care. Though I suppose we can't expect miracles. Sarah steps back. 2 paces. Hands clasped behind her back. Waiting. The protocol is clear. Available but invisible. Present but unobtrusive. She's perfected this stance over 3 years at Lumiere. The art of being needed, without being noticed. The Dover soul, Christopher says, not looking at her. How is it prepared? Pan-seared with brown butter and capers, sir. Served with. I don't need the full recitation. His fingers drum once against the table. Is the fish fresh or frozen? Fresh, sir. Delivered this morning from. And you're certain of this? Sarah's jaw tightens. Almost imperceptibly. Yes, sir. Because earlier, he continues calmly, you seemed certain you could pour wine without creating a disaster. A pause. And we saw how that turned out. The blonde woman hides a smile behind her napkin. The other man studies his menu with sudden, intense focus. The fish is fresh, Sarah says quietly. I can have Chef Marco speak with you directly if that won't be necessary. Christopher waves a dismissive hand. I'll have the soul. A beat. And try not to drop it. She writes the order carefully. Each stroke measured. The couple at table 9 tries to catch her attention. She doesn't move. At Lumiere, tables like his take precedence over everything else. The sea base for me, the blonde woman says. No sauce. And for you, sir? Sarah turns to the third guest. He clears his throat. Just the Caesar salad. Thank you. She nods, steps back. Actually, Christopher's voice stops her. Wait. Sarah turns. Her composure is still there, but thin now, fragile. Christopher tilts his head, studying her the way one might examine an insect under glass. That wine you spilled, he says. You said you'd cover the cost. Yes, sir. I'm curious. He leans back in his chair, relaxed, completely in control. What do you make in a month? A pause. Before tips. The question lands like a slap. Sarah becomes aware of the room again. The subtle turns of heads. Conversations dropping to murmurs. That's not. A simple question, Christopher says pleasantly. Surely you know your own salary. Her fingers tighten around the order pad. 2,800 a month, sir. 2,800. He repeats it slowly, tasting each word. So the wine you destroyed represents. He tilts his head. What would you say? More than a month's wages? Yes, sir. Significantly more. Yes. He nods, satisfied. Lifts his glass again. You're dismissed. Sarah walks away on legs that don't quite feel like hers. Behind her, Conversation, resumes. Low voices. The blonde woman's light laughter. In the kitchen. She enters the orders with shaking hands. The screen blurs. She blinks it back into focus. Her phone vibrates. Jackson's school. Third call in 20 minutes. Sarah stares at the screen. Her son's face looks up at her. Gap-toothed, trusting, unaware. She glances toward the dining room. Christopher Ashford sits with his guests. At ease. The kind of ease that comes from never having to choose. Between answering a phone call and keeping your job. Her finger hovers over the screen. The kitchen door swings open. Sarah. Table 7 wants to speak with you. She looks up at Marcus, the floor manager. His expression is neutral, but there's something underneath. Sympathy. Or pity. Now. Her voice comes out smaller than she intended. Now. Sarah slips the phone back into her pocket. Unanswered. She straightens her apron. Jackson will understand. He always does. She pushes through the kitchen doors. Back into the dining room's polished calm, where Christopher Ashford waits. With the patience of a man who knows the world will bend for him. She didn't know yet that some calls can't wait, and some choices can't be unmade. Christopher doesn't look up when she approaches. He's cutting into a piece of bread with surgical precision, every movement controlled, unhurried. The blonde woman scrolls on her phone, manicured nails catching the light. The third man shifts in his chair as Sarah stops at the edge of the table. You wanted to see me, sir? The soul. Christopher sets his knife down carefully. I've changed my mind. Sarah's pen hovers over her pad. Of course, sir. Would you prefer the ribeye? Medium rare. He pauses, then lifts his eyes to hers. And I want it perfect. No mistakes this time. You understand? Yes, sir. Because if there's another issue, any issue at all, I'll be speaking directly with ownership about the quality of service here. He lets the words settle. And I don't think that conversation would go well for you. The threat hangs in the air. Clear. Deliberate. Sarah nods, her throat tight. I understand, sir. The ribeye. Medium rare. She turns to leave. Her phone vibrates. Not a call this time. A text. The sound is soft, muffled by her apron, but under Christopher's attention, it feels loud. His eyes narrow. Is that your phone? I apologize, sir. I'll silence it immediately. You're taking personal calls during service? His voice stays calm, but something sharpens beneath it. No, sir. I haven't answered. But it's been ringing. He leans back, folding his arms. Multiple times. I've noticed. Sarah's hands tremble now. I'm very sorry for the disruption. What's so important? Christopher tilts his head. What could possibly be more important than doing your job? The blonde woman looks up, suddenly interested. It's nothing, sir, Sarah says quietly. I'll handle it after. Her phone vibrates again. This time it doesn't stop. A call. Persistent. Desperate. Christopher's expression cools. Answer it. Sir. You heard me. He gestures toward her apron. Answer the phone. Right here. I want to know what's so urgent that you're willing to jeopardize your employment. Mr. Ashford, I really don't think. I'm not asking. His voice drops. Answer it. Now. Sarah pulls the phone from her pocket. Jackson's school. Fourth call. Every eye at the table is on her now. She answers. Hello, Miss Chen. The school nurse speaks quickly. We've been trying to reach you. Jackson has a fever of 103. He's asking for you, and we need. I'm so sorry, Sarah cuts in. I'm at work, I can't. Christopher's hand extends, palm up. Waiting. Give me the phone, he says quietly. Sir, please. Give me the phone. Her fingers release it before her mind catches up. Christopher listens for a moment, then ends the call. He places the phone on the table, screen down. I'm so sorry, Sarah says. It's my son's school. I don't care about your problems. The words land flat. Final. He's 8 years old, she says. He's sick. Your personal life is not my concern. Christopher takes a sip of water, sets the glass down. What concerns me is that I'm paying for service, and instead I'm dealing with your inability to maintain professional boundaries. Please, Sarah says. If I could step outside for 2 minutes. This is completely unprofessional. His tone closes the discussion. And if you walk away from this table right now, management will hear exactly how inappropriate your behavior has been. The blonde woman watches openly now. Sarah stands frozen. Her son's school on speed dial. Her job hanging by a thread. So, Christopher folds his hands on the table. Are you going to do your job? Or do I need to call someone over who actually wants to work? The restaurant hums around them. Silverware. Laughter. Glass. Sarah slips the phone back into her pocket. Unanswered. Christopher watches. Good, he says. Now, about that ribeye. She chose her job over her son's call. And he made sure she understood what that choice cost. The kitchen is a blur of heat and motion. Sarah stands at the expediting station, waiting for Christopher's ribeye, her fingers pressed against the stainless steel counter hard enough to leave faint marks. Around her, the controlled chaos of service continues. Orders called, plates assembled, the hiss of pans, sharp commands in English and Spanish overlapping in a rhythm she knows too well. Her phone rests silent in her pocket. Silent, but heavy. She can still hear the nurse's voice asking for her. Still see Christopher's hand extended, waiting. Still feel the exact moment she surrendered the phone. And with it, something she hasn't named yet. Table 7, ribeye up. The plate slides across the pass. Sarah inspects it automatically. Medium rare. Perfect char. Plated with precision. No mistakes. There can't be mistakes. She lifts the plate and pushes back through the dining room doors. Christopher is mid-conversation when she arrives, leaning toward the blonde woman with the easy confidence of someone who has never doubted his place anywhere. He doesn't pause when Sarah sets the plate in front of him. Doesn't acknowledge her at all. Anything else I can get for you, sir? He cuts into the meat without answering. The knife slides through cleanly, revealing a perfect pink center. He studies it, then takes a single bite. Sarah waits. Christopher chews slowly, deliberately. He sets his fork down, lifts his wine glass, takes a sip. The silence stretches, long enough to become its own answer. It's adequate, he says at last, as if offering praise she hasn't earned. I'm glad, sir. You can go. She retreats to her station by the far wall, watching table 7 from a careful distance. The blonde woman laughs now, her hand resting lightly on Christopher's arm. The third man has barely touched his salad. Sarah's phone vibrates once. A text. She doesn't look at it. She can't. The rest of service passes in a haze of mechanical precision. Water glasses refilled. Bread baskets replaced. Questions answered with the same pleasant, empty tone she's perfected over years of similar tables, similar men, similar humiliations. By the time Christopher requests the check, the lunch rush has thinned. Sunlight slants through the windows at a softer angle. Forgiving. The kind of light that makes everything look better than it is. Sarah processes the payment at the server station, watching the total appear. $2,847.63. She doesn't blink. The wine alone was nearly half of that. The wine she spilled. The wine she promised to pay for. With wages that wouldn't cover it in 3 months. She prints the receipt, slides it into the leather folio, and delivers it to table 7. Christopher doesn't glance at the total. He simply hands her a black American Express card, without breaking his conversation. When she returns, he signs the receipt with careful precision, tears off his copy, slips it into his jacket pocket. Then he reaches into his wallet, pulls out a single dollar bill, and places it neatly on top of the receipt. For a moment, Sarah doesn't understand what she's seeing. $1 on a bill of nearly $3,000. Christopher pushes his chair back, still not looking at her. He reaches for the merchant copy of the receipt, the one she'll keep, and writes something across the signature line. He stands, buttons his jacket. "Thank you for your service," he says pleasantly. Sarah watches him fold the receipt, watches his fingers release it into her palm. She doesn't look down. Not yet. Christopher turns to his companions. "Shall we?" They walk toward the exit together, Christopher in the lead. Just before reaching the door, he says something she can't hear, and the blonde woman laughs. Bright, unbothered. Only then does Sarah look down. The tip line reads, $1, and beneath it, in careful handwriting, "Know your place." Her vision blurs. Around her, the restaurant continues as if nothing happened. Glasses clink. Voices murmur. Someone laughs. Sarah folds the receipt until it fits inside her closed fist. Her phone vibrates again in her pocket. This time, she doesn't feel it. For words on a receipt, and everything she'd swallowed in silence, finally had a name. The bathroom door closes with a soft click. Sarah stands at the sink, gripping the porcelain until her knuckles turn white. The face in the mirror looks wrong. Eyes too bright, skin too pale, expression caught somewhere between fury and breaking. She pulls the receipt from her pocket. $2,847.63. Tip, $1. Know your place. Her phone buzzes against the counter. Jackson's school. 6 missed calls. A message sits at the top of the screen. Miss Chen, Jackson's fever is 103.2. We need you to pick him up immediately. If we don't hear from you in 15 minutes, we'll contact emergency services. Timestamp, 12:47 p.m. It's 1:23 now. 36 minutes. She ignored her son for 36 minutes because a man in a $3,000 suit told her to. Sarah dials with trembling fingers. Miss Chen. The school nurse's voice is tight now, controlled, angry. I'm coming right now. We've been trying to reach you for over an hour. Jackson has been asking for you. His fever isn't responding. Tell him I'm coming. Sarah ends the call before the judgment can finish forming. Her reflection stares back at her. Uniform pressed. Hair neat. The careful composition of someone who's learned to make herself smaller. Someone who knows her place. She removes her apron. Folds it once. Sets it on the counter. Then she walks out. Through the kitchen's heat and noise. Past Marco, who pretends not to see her. Past prep stations where her tables wait for someone else. The back exit opens into an alley that smells like grease and freedom. 8 minutes until her rideshare arrives. Her phone vibrates. Marcus, where are you? Marcus, table 12 is asking for you. Marcus, if you left without telling me, we need to talk. She doesn't answer. Instead, she opens her photos. Christopher's receipt. His perfect handwriting. His certainty. Know your place. The rideshare pulls up. Jackson Elementary, Sarah says as she gets in. Please hurry. Lumiere disappears in the mirror. Her phone vibrates again. Marcus, be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Sarah opens her banking app. Current balance, $1,847.32. Rent due in 6 days, $1,650. She closes it before the math can finish the sentence. Instead, she searches a name. Christopher Ashford. Forbes profiles load instantly. Net worth, $2.3 billion. Harvard Business School. Philanthropist. Donor to museums. And a children's hospital. A children's hospital. Sarah scrolls through photos, tuxedos, senators, awards. Then one image stops her. Older. Grainy. Christopher at his Harvard graduation, standing beside an elderly woman in a simple department store dress. The caption reads, Christopher Ashford with his mother, Susan Ashford. Sarah zooms in. Tired eyes. Kind eyes. The kind that belong to women who work double shifts. Who count pennies. Who raise children alone. The same eyes Sarah sees in her mirror every morning. She wonders what Susan Ashford would think of her son writing, Know Your Place, on a receipt for a single mother. The car stops. Jackson's school. The nurse's expression says what professionalism won't allow her to. Jackson is in the clinic, she says gently. His fever broke 20 minutes ago. A pause. He's been asking for you. Sarah nods. Her throat won't cooperate. Jackson lies curled on the clinic bed, small and flushed, hair damp with sweat. When he sees her, his face crumples. Mom. She crosses the room in 3 steps and pulls him into her arms. His forehead burns against her neck. I'm here, baby. I'm here now. You didn't answer. The words carry a question he doesn't yet know how to ask. Why didn't you come? Sarah closes her eyes. She thinks of Christopher's handwriting, Susan's tired eyes, and the distance between a world that writes, Know Your Place, and a world that just wants its mother to answer the phone. I'm sorry, she whispers into his hair. I'm so sorry. Outside, the afternoon continues. Tables served. Wine poured. The performance of service repeated by people who've learned that some emergencies matter less than others. But here, holding her son, Sarah makes a decision she didn't know she was capable of making. She's done knowing her place. She chose her son, and in doing so, finally understood what it would cost to choose herself. Sarah doesn't go back to Lumiere the next morning. She wakes before dawn out of habit. A body trained to rise before the sun, before Jackson, before the world asks for anything. The apartment is quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator, and her son's soft breathing down the hall. Her phone sits dark on the nightstand. No alarm. No messages she's willing to read. She checks anyway. Marcus, 10 a.m. Don't be late. Marcus, Sarah, I need to hear from you. Marcus, if you're not here by noon, I'm assuming you quit. Timestamp, 11:47 a.m. yesterday. 12 hours past the point of no return. Sarah walks to Jackson's room. He sleeps peacefully now. Fever broken. Breathing steady. She watches him for a long moment, thinking about trust. How he still believes she'll be there when he wakes, even when she wasn't. Her laptop waits on the kitchen table. She opens her bank account. Current balance, $1,847.32. Rent due, 4 days. Without Lumiere's paycheck, the numbers only work for 1 more month. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. Miss Chen. Patricia Odom, from Ashford Capital Management. Sarah's breath catches. I'm sorry. Who? Mr. Ashford's office. We're calling regarding an incident at Lumiere on Tuesday. The room tilts. Mr. Ashford was concerned about the circumstances of your departure, Patricia continues. He wanted to ensure there are no lingering professional complications. Professional complications. He wrote "Know your place" on a receipt, Sarah says quietly, and left me $1 on a $3,000 check. Silence. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Patricia says at last. Mr. Ashford simply. He took my phone, Sarah cuts in, when my son's school called. Told me my personal life wasn't his concern while my 8-year-old had a 103-degree fever. Ms. Chen. Patricia's voice cools. I think there may be some misunderstanding. There isn't. Another pause. Mr. Ashford is very generous, Patricia says carefully. If you're experiencing financial hardship, his office might be able to. No. I'm sorry. Tell Mr. Ashford I don't need his help. I don't need anything from him. Miss Chen, I don't think you understand what's being offered. I understand perfectly, Sarah says. He wants to make sure I stay quiet. That I know my place. The silence confirms everything. Sarah ends the call. Her hands tremble as she sets the phone down. The apartment hasn't changed. Same walls. Same math. But something inside her has. She opens the photo again. The receipt. Know your place. For 3 days, those words have lived in her pocket. On her phone. In the tight space behind her ribs. Where shame and anger compete. Now, staring at them. She doesn't feel small. She opens a new search. Susan Ashford obituary. The results load quickly. Susan Marie Ashford. 71. Passed 3 years ago. Devoted mother. Lifelong Queens resident. Worked 30 years as a home health aide. No wealth. No privilege. Just a woman who spent her life answering other people's emergencies. A woman who probably answered every call. No matter who was watching. The obituary includes a photo. Susan in her 60s. Smiling in scrubs. The same tired, kind eyes. Sarah saves the image. Then opens a new email to Marcus. I won't be returning to Lumiere. I apologize for leaving without notice. Thank you for 3 years. Her finger hovers. She thinks about rent. About Jackson. About the math that has governed every decision of her adult life. She thinks about Susan Ashford's eyes. Christopher's handwriting. And the cruelty of a man who learned to erase people. From a mother who never did. Sarah presses send. The email disappears. Final. Jackson appears in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Mom. Are you okay? Sarah closes her laptop and kneels in front of him. I'm okay, baby. How are you feeling? Better. He leans into her. Are you going to work? Not today. Tomorrow. She pulls him closer, breathing him in. I don't know yet. But we'll figure it out. Together. Together. Jackson nods and wanders toward the kitchen. Sarah stays kneeling. Susan Ashford's photo glows on her screen. Somewhere across the city, Christopher Ashford moves through his day. Without ever having to choose. between a phone call and a job. But his mother's eyes stare back at Sarah's phone. Tired, kind, knowing. And for the first time in 3 days, Sarah feels something that isn't shame. She doesn't have a plan yet. But she has something more dangerous. The certainty that silence is no longer an option. 3 weeks pass in the quiet rhythm of unemployment. Slow mornings, careful grocery lists, applications sent and mostly ignored. Sarah sends her resume to 17 restaurants, gets 3 callbacks, accepts a position at a small Brooklyn bistro that pays far less than Lumiere and doesn't ask why she left without notice. The tips are smaller, the clientele less polished, but no one takes her phone, and no one writes messages on receipts. Jackson returns to school. The fever fades into memory, replaced by spelling tests and permission slips, the kind of emergencies Sarah can answer now without fear. Christopher Ashford's office stays silent. Sarah almost convinces herself it's over. Almost. Susan Ashford's photo remains saved on her phone. During slow moments, Sarah catches herself staring at those tired, kind eyes, the eyes of a woman who raised a man who forgot what kindness meant. One Tuesday evening, walking Jackson home, he stops at a newsstand. "Mom, look." Christopher Ashford stares back from a magazine cover in a tailored suit. The headline reads, "The Philanthropist CEO, Christopher Ashford on Giving Back." Sarah feels her stomach tighten. "He looks important," Jackson says. "Yeah," she answers. "He does." She buys the magazine. That night, after Jackson falls asleep, she reads. Christopher speaks about responsibility, about opportunity, about his mother's influence. "My mother taught me that everyone deserves dignity," he says. "She worked as a home health aide her entire life, caring for people in their most vulnerable moments." Sarah reads the line twice. Everyone deserves dignity. She thinks about his hand reaching for her phone. His voice, "I don't care about your problems." The receipt, "Know your place." The article continues, scholarships, grants, children's hospitals. There's a photo of Christopher shaking hands with a nurse, both smiling. Sarah opens Susan Ashford's obituary. Worked 30 years as a home health aide. The contrast settles in, heavy and unavoidable. Christopher built a public image honoring his mother's work, while humiliating the woman serving his table. He speaks about dignity, while enforcing silence. Sarah closes the magazine and opens her laptop. The Ashford Foundation website loads. At the top, "Share your story." Her fingers hover. She types about a Tuesday afternoon. A spilled glass. A child's emergency. 4 words written with perfect certainty. She rereads it. Then deletes everything. Public exposure won't fix rent. Won't make the next emergency easier. She closes the laptop. But Susan Ashford's photo remains open on her phone. An idea forms. Quiet. Intentional. She searches the Foundation's events. Most are invitation only. Except one. Annual Healthcare Workers Appreciation Dinner. October 15th. 3 days away. Open registration. All healthcare workers welcome. Sarah worked as a home health aide before Jackson was born. Her certification is still valid. She could attend. Stand in a room full of caregivers. And listen to Christopher Ashford speak about dignity and his mother's legacy. And calmly ask whether he remembers a Tuesday when someone's phone rang and he decided it didn't matter. Her finger hovers. This could follow her forever. But Susan Ashford's eyes stare back from the screen. And somewhere between who Christopher became and who his mother was, there's a question that deserves to be asked. Sarah clicks register. The confirmation appears instantly. We look forward to seeing you October 15th. The apartment is quiet. Jackson sleeps down the hall. In 3 days, Sarah will stand in a room full of caregivers and ask a billionaire about his mother. And for the first time since that afternoon at Lumiere, she understands something clearly. Silence was never her place. The grand ballroom of the Metropolitan Hotel holds 300 people, and still feels like another planet. Sarah stands near the entrance, smoothing her department store dress. The same one from Jackson's school concert. Professional from a distance. Worn up close. Healthcare workers fill the room in their own careful best. Pressed shirts, borrowed heels, clean scrubs under coats. Chandeliers pour warm light. Waiters glide with champagne and appetizers. That cost more than Sarah's weekly groceries. Ahead, a stage glows with the Ashford Foundation logo. A volunteer hands her a name tag. Sarah Chen, Home Health Aide. She finds a table near the back. The woman beside her, 50s, kind eyes, tired hands, leans in. First time. Yeah. Mr. Ashford always talks about his mother, the woman whispers. Makes you feel seen. The lights dim. An elegant host steps onto the stage. Welcome to the Healthcare Workers Appreciation Dinner, honoring the legacy of Susan Ashford. Applause rises. Sarah keeps her hands in her lap. Please welcome Christopher Ashford. He walks out in a tailored suit, calm as a headline. He smiles like warmth is a skill. My mother, Susan Ashford, worked as a home health aide for 30 years. He begins. She cared for people in their most vulnerable moments. Heads nod. People recognize their own lives. She used to tell me, Christopher continues, that dignity isn't something you earn. It's something you're owed, no matter your wealth, no matter your status. The woman beside Sarah wipes her eyes. Sarah doesn't. Because she can see a Tuesday afternoon. A call from Jackson's school. A hand extended for her phone. Ink on paper. Know your place. Christopher's voice stays smooth. Thank you for answering the call. No matter how inconvenient. The word inconvenient hits Sarah like a shove. And I want to share something personal, he says. A few weeks ago, I witnessed a caregiver face an impossible choice. Between professional duty and a family emergency. Her grace reminded me of my mother. He's rewriting it. Turning cruelty into a story about her strength. Sarah stands. Just a chair sliding back. A quiet sound that pulls heads around. She walks toward the stage, steady, controlled. A security guard steps forward. Christopher lifts a hand, stopping him. His eyes find Sarah's. Recognition flickers, then calculation. Yes, he asks, still warm. Did you want to share something? Mr. Ashford, Sarah says, voice low and clear. Do you remember me? He studies her. I meet many people. Lumiere, she says. 3 weeks ago. Tuesday afternoon. The smile tightens. Just a fraction. Oh, of course. You were my server. I hope everything worked out with your situation. My son, Sarah says. Jackson, 8 years old. A fever of 103. The ballroom goes still. Christopher inhales, trying to reset. I'm glad he's better. As I was saying. You took my phone from my hands, Sarah cuts in. The school nurse was telling me he needed me. You ended the call. And you told me my personal life wasn't your concern. His expression hardens, but his posture stays perfect. I think you may be misremembering. I'm not, Sarah says. You left a $1 tip on a $3,000 check. And you wrote 4 words. She raises her phone. The receipt photo glows. Know your place. A murmur ripples through the room. Sarah's voice stays quiet. That's what makes it hurt. Your mother's name is on this foundation. You just told 300 caregivers she taught you everyone deserves dignity. A beat. Would Susan Ashford recognize the man who wrote this? Silence. Christopher's mouth opens. No sentence comes out clean. Sarah lowers her phone. I'm not here for money, she says. I just needed you to hear it. In a room full of people who answer the call. Because that's what your mother did. She turns and walks away. No drama. No victory pose. Just air in her lungs again. Outside, the October night is honest. And for the first time since Lumiere, Sarah can breathe. Sarah walks 6 blocks before the adrenaline finally fades. And her legs begin to shake. She stops at a small park and sits on a bench beneath amber streetlights. Around her, the city continues. Cars passing, distant laughter. The ordinary sounds of a world that didn't just tilt sideways. Her phone rests in her hand. Silent. No calls. No messages. No immediate catastrophe from what she just did. Just silence. And the sharp clarity of having said something that can't be unsaid. Sarah opens her photos. She looks at the receipt one last time. Christopher's handwriting. The dollar. The 4-word philosophy. Then she deletes it. Not because she forgave him, but because she doesn't need to carry it anymore. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. Miss Chen. I'm Dr. Rebecca Torres. I was at the dinner tonight. Sarah's stomach tightens. I'm sorry if I... Don't apologize. Rebecca cuts in. I've been a nurse for 23 years. I've worked for people like Christopher Ashford. And I've never seen anyone say what needed saying. The way you just did. Sarah closes her eyes. After you left, Rebecca continues, about 40 of us stood up and walked out too. You reminded a room full of exhausted caregivers that we don't have to accept being treated like we're worth $1. They exchange numbers. A coffee invitation follows. Sarah accepts before she can overthink it. Another message appears. This is Marcus from Lumiere. I heard what happened tonight. That took guts. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Sarah stares at the screen. Marcus, who once offered careful neutrality, has found something like respect. She types back 1 word. Thank you. The walk home takes 30 minutes. When Sarah opens her apartment door, Mrs. Park is reading on the couch. Jackson is already asleep. How was it? Mrs. Park asks gently. Sarah thinks about ballrooms and speeches. About Christopher's face when she held up the receipt. About Susan Ashford's tired eyes. About 40 people choosing to leave. It was necessary. Mrs. Park nods and says nothing more. Sarah checks on Jackson. He sleeps peacefully, arm wrapped around his stuffed bear. Unaware his mother just confronted a billionaire. She sits on the edge of his bed and smooths his hair. I answered the call this time, she whispers. Not yours, but one that mattered. Her phone buzzes again. An email. Subject, Ashford Foundation. A polite message, carefully worded. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a request for silence. Wrapped in legal courtesy and implied threat. Sarah deletes it. Then she opens her laptop. She writes, not for exposure, not for revenge, just truth. About a Tuesday afternoon. About a man who chose cruelty over kindness. and called it professionalism. She doesn't name him. She doesn't need to. She posts it to a restaurant workers forum she's belonged to for years, then closes the laptop. Morning comes. When Sarah checks the forum, her post has 63 comments, 63 stories, receipts, moments of being told to know their place. She reads them all. Not healing, not closure, but possibility. The possibility that silence was never protection. That speaking was never as dangerous as staying quiet. Sarah texts Rebecca, "Coffee tomorrow." The reply is immediate. "Absolutely. Bring your resume. I know people who are hiring." Morning light fills the apartment. Somewhere across the city, Christopher Ashford likely moves through his day with the same easy confidence he's always had. But 40 people walked out of his gala. 63 people spoke up, and one exhausted server finally stopped knowing her place and started choosing it instead. Sarah makes coffee, wakes Jackson for school. Nothing has been fixed, but something important has been said. And sometimes, that's where change begins. She couldn't undo the past or predict the future, but for the first time in years, she owned her present, and that was enough. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with a single mother standing in front of a billionaire and asking one question he couldn't answer. Would your mother recognize who you've become? Sarah didn't destroy Christopher Ashford. She didn't need to. She reminded 300 people. And now, you. That dignity isn't something the powerful give. It's something the brave claim. If this story stayed with you, don't let it end in silence. Subscribe to this channel, because stories like Sarah's deserve to be told, and moments like this deserve witnesses. Leave a like. If you believe a child's emergency will always matter more than a billionaire's convenience, turn on notifications so you don't miss stories about ordinary people finding the courage to do extraordinary things. And tell us in the comments, have you ever been forced to choose between your dignity and your paycheck? Have you ever been told to know your place? Your story matters, because every time one person speaks up, others realize they're not alone. Sarah's story started with 4 words on a receipt. Yours doesn't have to. Subscribe, share, and stay. This is where change begins. With you.